thank you both so much for taking time out. Obviously, we're here to discuss Boston Kickout. It is, about to what is celebrating its 30th anniversary, which, is insane because we're all still, what, 20? So, how does it feel to, be at this such a, landmark anniversary?
Well, it does make you realize how old you are. Yeah. Paul and I did the 30th anniversary director's commentary. I think John Simm had done a director's commentary a while back for you, hadn't he, Paul?
Yeah,
And
for the original release, yeah.
for the original, yeah. And you're just looking at yourself 30 years younger, and yeah, it's a very strange experience. I think that's the weird thing about this business is that I mean, we all have photos and pictures of ourselves, we can look back on, but with certainly with acting and filmmaking, you actually see it. You see yourself through all these different ages. It's quite can be quite a disturbing sort of thing to
Yeah,
witness. Really.
I mean, when we did this restoration by me going back to the original negative of the film, so I had to actually get the negative out of the vaults, and I had to rescan it, and then we had to, regrade it. And the funny thing is, I'd not actually watched the film for probably 29 years. I didn't. I've not wanted to see it because when you make a film, you've seen it so many times. The last thing you want to do is to see it again. So I had to see it intimately again after 29 years. And of course, while going through it, you relive all the things you remember from the shooting of the film. You relive, all the things that you went through to shoot that scene, to edit that scene, to mix that scene. It's an amazing trip down memory lane. But you end up with the despotting and the repair of neck damage, etc., ending up going through every frame of it again. And so I don't even know at the anniversary screening if I'll be able to watch it, because again, I've seen it so many times. I've literally been through every frame by frame, hundreds of times now.
Is that what you do? Literally 24, 25 frames, that's it?
Yeah. One frame, check it. Another frame, check it. Another frame, check it. I have checked every frame of this film
That's a lot of
for.
frames.
You could tell me it's not. I think it's 51,000 frames or something
Right.
like that. It's a lot of frames.
That's
You
a
know.
labor of love.
It really is a labour of love, but the whole film was a labour of love. Making it in the first time and doing this restoration is, also been a labour of love. I'm going to calculate the number of frames now.
Yeah, it's and I mean restoration
Yeah,
is so fascinating, and yeah, to go through it, with that fine, fine tooth comb is, it's very impressive.
it's 151,200 frames, and I watched them fight each one of them separately.
Wow.
2 years work it took to do this
Really? 2
restoration.
years? Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the most pristine version of the film that has ever existed. Okay. It is beautiful. At least I hope it is after 2 years of restoration.
I'm sure it is. I mean, the film paints quite a stark picture of, the 90s post-Thatcher Britain. What were you trying to say about, the political and social climate of the time?
Well, that's a very good question. The film came about through me wanting to tell my experiences of growing up in Stevenage in an English new town in the 90s. So the film is very autobiographical. And, the character of Phil is based on myself and my friends, and all the characters in the film are based upon people I knew. There were composites of one, two, or three people. The character of Rob is a composite of a couple of guys I knew who wanted to be hard men, as it were, in the town. So Stevenage is a very special place because it came about through an act of parliament. So people were moved to Stevenage in the hope of a new life. but they were moved from the slums of London and from the slums of Birmingham. So in the early years, Stevenage was a very much a concrete jungle and a Wild West kind of place. You know, if you walked around at night when I was growing up, you know, you'd just be beaten up for fun, because that would be something that people would do, go out and beat people up for fun, you know? So what it's trying to say is it's just trying to show a very true picture of the environment I lived in then, and a lot of people lived in, you know, in these English new towns, and how this social experiment, even though it, you know, was obviously came about through people trying to give hope and to give people a better life, the actual way the social experiment unfolded wasn't ideal, and that you can't just take people from slums and stick them all somewhere and not really care about creating a proper integrated society where people have things to do and services which help them. You know, it was Wild West in a way doing that. And the net result is there are a lot of people that got into alcoholism, drug addiction, all these things are kind of alluded to in the film. So it just, it's the attempt was to do a very truthful picture. That's what I wanted to do.
And for you, Mark, as a younger actor, what was it about the role of Rob that spoke to you and made you think that, yeah, this is a character that I want to convey?
Do you know, I don't actually remember much about the Rob character. I don't even remember reading the script. I don't. The only thing I remember is meeting Paul at the audition on Wardour Street, I think it was, in Soho, and I guess I would have been. Is that right?
Yep, 93 Wardour Street in the
Yeah,
basement.
right. And I guess I would have been about. I was probably about 27, 28. And as soon as I saw Paul, I don't know, we had a connection, and there was like an electricity, you know, and I don't know, there was an intensity, and I mean that went on to be a lifelong friendship. But that was the initial meeting, and I know that Paul. There was a documentary about the film called "Do You Really Want to Rap Here?" and that actual meeting is on the film, and you can't really tell it when you see that. But I remember the experience of it. So I don't actually remember so much about the Rob character, and I probably wouldn't have even known what I was going to do with it anyway. But Paul cast me, and then the next thing was I got a message. I mean, would this be pre-mobile phones or
it was just at the start of mobile phones coming in, phone
right? Yeah. So I got a message or a phone call, and Paul said, "I want you to cut all your hair off," and I'd never done that before. And as soon as I did that, I actually remember sitting in the barber's chair, and he took it off, and that was it really. That was you know, that had quite an effect on my appearance, and it also affected a lot of the way that people reacted to me. I suddenly noticed I'd be walking down the street and people would be
taking a wide berth. Taking
a wide berth, yeah.
And then after he'd shaved off his hair, I said, right, now come to Stevenage and we're going to do a first meeting. And I arranged for the first meeting to be done in the pub with the biggest nutter, the hardest guy in Stevenage. And then I introduced Mark to this guy, because in a way that's what the character of Rob aspires to be, is this character, you know?
I don't remember that meeting. And I certainly would, because I'm not at all like that cat. You know, if there's going to be a fight or a squabble, I'm going to be down the road or talking my way out of it. You know, I'm not a hero. Not a fighter for sure. I've never been in a fight. So, but you know, it's amazing. You know, with acting, that you get to pretend that you are. You know, you get to do all these things that would be a fantasy, really. I mean, I wouldn't last 5 minutes in that company, but it's great fun. It's great fun to do it when it's not for real, you know.
I probably didn't tell Mark that this was the biggest nutter in Stevenage, but or if I did, it would have been later.
Well, I
But
certainly
yeah,
remember doing a scene with him in the film.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because he threw us out of it. He threw us out of a club, and luckily enough, he had his name was Ricky, and he had older John Simm, and he threw John Simm out, and another guy threw me out. Is that Huggy? Somebody?
Yeah, Hucky Lever,
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
actor.
Huggy threw me out. You know, and when people get on a film set, they tend to add a little extra in, and if you had Ricky throwing you out, you'd know about it. So luckily I didn't have that.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I mean, I cast him in the film because I wanted Ricky Barnett, to feel that he was invested in the film and that he would support it. Because in Stevenage at our time, each local pub, each manor would have its hard man who would sort of control things in that area. And then over the top of them all was this character, Ricky Barnett, who really was the hardest man in Stevenage at that time. I don't know who the new person is, but I presume it can't be Ricky after 30 years. But he liked us and he liked Mark, and he patronized the film.
I guess sort of as our time wraps up, one of the things that I think that remains 30 years later that makes this film so fascinating is its depiction of male relationships, of male mental health. That's still very much something that isn't really seen on screen. So you're kind of hoping that with this 30th anniversary that some new audiences might come to this and realize that that there are films out there that do deal with these trickier subjects for men.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. What happened, for instance, to the Steve character in the film happened to a friend of mine, So that was all from my experience of, what can happen in this pressure pot environment of Stevenage. And also added with the pressure of trying to get out. For instance, the Steve character wants to get out of, this terrible concrete jungle, and his parents have, put a lot of pressure on him to pass his exams, and that is still a very prevalent thing now of people having mental breakdowns due to the pressure of exams, etc. It's a hard time, and that time of leaving school and not knowing what you're going to do with your life, that's constantly prevalent and important in everyone's lives, everyone's family's life.
And as an aside to the film, although the film dealt with those kind of male relationships, it was the start of certainly, my friendship with Paul and with John Simm and with Andy Lincoln, and that, I mean, I've worked with John many times, and so it was an amazing experience. All of us in our 20s, we suddenly from nowhere, we're all together, we're doing this great project, and it was the start of 30 years friendship there for all of us. So
nice. Well, thank you guys for your time, and best of luck with the release.
Thank you,
Thank
Kat.
you.